Good morning everyone. This is my next class. Today's class I'm gonna show you how to play with white against a tarrach opening. Tarrach opening basically black will have a free piece play whereas he will have an isolated pawn in the center. Okay, today I'm gonna show you a game which was a very famous game played between Anatoly Karpov and Garry Kasparov in the World Championship 1984. d4, d5, c4, e6, knight f3, c5. Okay, in this tarrach opening, black will get a isolated d5 pawn and will have all the movements of pieces, a free movement of pieces. Okay, after cd5, ed5, g3. In basically the tarrach opening, if you play a move like knight c3 and bishop f4 and e3 and develop the bishop on d3, the problem is you will have black will simply play knight f6, knight d7, knight bd7 to f6 and knight e4. He will fix this pawn on c4 and try to create a passed pawn. The problem with the tarrach opening with black is white started attacking this d5 pawn by playing bishop g2. So that is the main reason why we'll play g3, and after bishop g2 black can never play c4. Later if white plays knight c3 and a4, this pawn will automatically will be a terrible weakness. The d5 pawn will fall down later, the c4 pawn. So knight f6, bishop g2 and bishop e1, bishop e7, castle shot, nc3, nc6. Now the black should be very concerned about the position. He will get an isolated pawn. For that he will get a heavy piece playment. The pieces will be very active for black. So he played bishop g5, cd4, and in this position c4 would be a terrible mistake for black. After c4 he can simply trade with b3, and this pawn will be a big weakness. Then he need to give the double bishop like c4, b3. There is no b5, knight into b5 wins, so he needs to play bishop b4, then bishop f6, gf6, then rook c1 with the idea of b into c4, then bishop into c3, rook into c3, b5, and b into c4, b into c4, and final there is white is clearly better. Now there is weakness of f6, and at d5 black can easily win, white can easily win the game. In this position also white simply can play knight h5 and try to occupy with knight f5, queen c2, knight f5, or even e4 back is also very good when the king is too much exposed. So there is no c4, and after cd4, knight d4, h6, bishop e3, and rook e8. Now white is trying to double these rooks on the d file and slowly grab this d5 pawn, and later goes to endgame where he can win the position. Whereas black should try to keep the pieces, try to attack the king side or any other, or even should try to push d4 and exchange this pawn with e2 pawn, or if we push e3, black should be very thorough in this opening. So here they used to play queen c2 and rook d1, rook d2 and rook double, but now Karpov has improved to queen b3 knight a5, and then queen c2. The reason why he plays this because there is no the knight could square is knight c6 and challenge this knight. Once if you capture this knight on c6, you will have a bc6, and that position will be very good for black, even though black is having a hanging pawns in the center, but still black can be having a good chance. So after committing knight a5, knight will not be on c6, and once if we play knight c6 back again, now white will gain a tempo. So in this position, if you play knight c4, he can simply play bishop f4, and later he can open with b3 and try to move this knight later, and he can double. So the idea of queen b3 and queen c2 gains a move. So he played bishop g4 and knight f5. Now knight f5, the point is to fix this bishop on d4, and also he needs to get the double bishop advantage once if you capture bishop into f5, or he will make the bishop force the concession on knight e7, or even rook double and attack on the d file. So he played rook c8 and bishop d4. If not bishop d4, white can try bishop f5 like things, and d4, later rook d1 and rook double, he'll play knight c6. That position still better for white because of the d pawn. So after rook c8, white is not allowing to play any threats like c4, d4. So bishop c5 and bishop into c5, rook into c5, and knight e3. At this point now, everyone can see that d5 pawn is a terrible weakness. All the white pieces are eyeing for d5, and there is no way to push and escape this d5, because after rook d1, this d5 pawn will slowly fall in the pin. And even after there is a move with knight g4, so this d4 fork doesn't really help black. So bishop e6 supporting this d5 and rook a d1, queen c8, queen a4, a very good move. Now black is threatening to play like bishop a6 and try to go to an end game where at least he will be able to draw this position. Now after queen a4, he simply removes this piece from the pin, and once if he exchange bishop h3, he will simply grab bishop h3, or even he can play rook d2 or rook double. So queen a4 after, so he played rook d8 and rook d3, a6 and rook fd1. Okay, now knight c4, knight into c4, there is no d into c4, so rook into c4, queen a5, rook c5, queen b6, rook d7 supporting this rook, and rook d4, queen c7. And now I think Karpov realized that he can win this endgame with a pawn up. So after queen c7, rook c7, h3. The thing is, h3 is a very good move. He prevents the counter chances of all the knight movements of, and even sometimes the bishop also won't come. There is no way that black can win this game. So h5, a3. White is just preventing all the counter chances and just waiting for a weakness that have to be committed from the black side. So g6, e3, king g7, king h2. Now he played rook c4 and tries to exchange these rooks, and bishop f3. White is just um, taking control of the position and trying to fix everything, and later he can win this position. So after rook in 7 c5, rook into c4. Now simply black, if takes with d into c5, white will get an open file, and rook a8 will be definitely a plus equal position. Rook a8 and a8 will be advantage. So rook into c4, rook d4. Now in this position black has given the pawn, but this pawn I think is not sufficient to win the game. After knight d5, bishop d5, bishop d5, rook into d5, rook c2, b4, rook d3, rook b3 and a4. Say for example knight into d5, bishop into d5, bishop into d5, rook into d5, rook c2, b4 and rook c3, a4, ba4 and rook a5, a3, rook into c5, rook b3, b5, rook into b5, rook into a3. So this position is very hard to win from white side. There is no pawns on the other side, so the position is almost like equal. Black can easily hold this position. So Karpov didn't want to allow this, so he played rook d4. So he played king f8, bishop e2 and rook d4, ed4. Even though now the pawns, he didn't take the pawn on d5, but yet this position is good for white. The reason is the pawns are fixed, all the black pawns are fixed on the white square, and this white bishop will be very active and can do a good prospect in the game. So king e7, knight a2. Now white is trying to keep this knight. He wants to triangulate this knight like anyway. Knight f5, knight. So we played bishop c8, knight b4, king d6 and f3. f3 is very good. The main thing for f3 is to prevent knight e4 and shut down the pieces movement of black. Here black played knight g8 and white played h4. If not h4, black will try to play h4 and try to fix these pawns on the white squares. So h4 is forced and knight h6, preventing g4 and a break on the king side pawn structure. We want to create a passed pawn on the king side